Moving on, we are going to be talking about engaging with customers. Okay, so I'm excited about this message. This was something that that I have observed and kind of started talking about with Josh and Brian, that there are some people on our team who are really good at pulling people into the booth. I am not one of those people. Somebody walks up to the booth, even if they don't say, hey, I'm here to buy knives. That's always nice when that happens. But sometimes they just walk up to the booth and they're kind of interested. They're not sure. They're like, oh, I've heard of Cutco, ... Oh, kitchen knives. Oh yeah, our knives are terrible. Or they walk over for some reason, or something catches their eye and they have a reason to walk up to the booth. Some of us are great at working with those customers and closing them. Some of us are not so great at a person is walking by, they've got their blinders on, they're just moving down the aisles with the herd. And some people on our team are really freaking good at pulling those people in, at breaking their pattern, at like interrupting them, whatever they're thinking or doing or where they're going. And it's not just about yelling out to them and they laugh and walk away, but how do you get those people and how do you get them to come have a conversation with you at the booth, right? I don't know if you've ever paid attention to this. And again, this is coming from a place of your own awareness, and maybe you haven't paid attention to this before, but think for a second, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on that ability? It's not just about closing the people that walk up to the booth, but it's how do we bring more people to the booth? How do you actually, again, you see a customer walking by and you're like, I want to sell Cutco to that person. How do you actually pull them over and make it happen when they have no idea who you are, what Cutco is, they had no interest in knives? There are people on our team who are really good at this. And I have asked a couple of them, I know there are more than just these couple, but I've asked a couple of them specifically to give us some tips on how they do that. All right. So specifically on how they engage customers, how they pull them into the booth, and most importantly, how do they convert those people to becoming Cutco owners when they really had no interest in Cutco or kitchen knives when they were walking by that day. All right. So first up, we are going to hear from one of my favorite people to watch do this, Mr. Calvin Lopez. I'm going to start with him because I just watching, I don't know how many of you worked in the booth with Calvin, but like watching him just like pull in customers is like just so fun. Like I get distracted listening to him and like other people are walking up to the booth and I like forget that I'm supposed to be working because I just have so much fun listening to Calvin. So he's going to give us a couple tips right now. So we'll kick it over to him.
Awesome. You know what, Kelly, I appreciate that. I'm really good at stuff. Thank you. Now, with me, I'm just very much, obviously, I use my personality. I can be outgoing when I want to, but I very much will try to engage with every single person that I have any interest with at all. Like, I'm very attentive. I try to watch if I see them wearing a nice watch, or they're carrying a nice bag, or they have a nice stroller, or just anything that's like, those people should have Cutco, and I want to be the person to sell it to them. So I love saying hi to everybody. I love saying, like, ever since Bert's last talk, I don't remember when it was, but I love saying cutting deals. I think it's actually Seth who came up with that, but Bert takes all the credit for it. I just, anything I can get to make them look at me is basically my goal. Like, I just want them to look at me and I want them to look at our table. So I'll try to just say anything I can to get them just to kind of focus on me. And then basically from there, I'm just trying to make eye contact with them so I can ask them any kind of question. I'll ask them like, oh my gosh, are y'all familiar with Cutco? Or hey, do y'all have these already? Or oh my gosh, where'd you get that watch? Like, whatever I can kind of do just to like get them to stop and get them to shift for a second. Because if there's any type of pause, like, and they look like a qualified customer, I can normally get them to come. I'm going to ask them some type of question, whether it's again like, hey, are y'all familiar with Cutco? Oh my gosh, you already have these. How long have you had them for? Oh my gosh, I'll do the whole Brandon Brown thing where I'll go to the very far away and I'll pick up a knife. I'm like, do you have this knife right here? And I kind of like lean back a little bit so that way they kind of have to pull in just to kind of come engage with me a little bit more. If they're not familiar with Cutco and they're like, oh no, I'm not familiar with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you have any good knives at home though? Normally they'll say, oh no, we have crap knives, or oh yeah, we have a good set. I'm like, oh really? What kind are they? They're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, are they really that good if you don't even know what they are? And they're like, oh, I guess not. But then it's instantly, I'm trying to, if they don't have Cutco, awesome. Hey, you know what? You want to see something really cool? Go ahead and hold this knife real quick. I want to hand them something as quick as I can. I want to put it in their hand. I want them to cut leather. If I have to cut a penny first, even though I want to do that later, like anything I can do that's just going to catch their attention and wow them for a second, that's going to get them to stop long enough to where I can actually go into a full-on pitch and I can actually like show them Cutco and I can kind of do everything else from there. But like, I'm going to be high energy. I really try, if it's my turn, I don't want to be on my phone at all. My phone needs to be away from me. Like, I want to look at everybody. I want to engage everybody. I want to do everything I can just to get them to look at me. And then once I get them to look at me, I'll say whatever I have to say. I'm not shy. Just like, oh my God, how old is your baby? Like, I really don't care. But anything that's just, it just throws them off because they're obviously expecting me to say something specific, but like, and I just use high energy just to keep it going. That's really like all I do whenever I'm there.
And that's it. Anything else? Any other tips?
Don't have your phone out when it's your turn, Stephen.
This is the man with his phone out at every turn.
Called out.
I just want to throw in, Calvin is the king of, if there's someone sharp and it's his turn, he will just sit there awkwardly waving at them.
I do the wave. Yes, the
30
wave
feet away.
aggressively well. I've sold so many sets from just smiling and waving, and they think I know them, and they're like, I'm like, oh, come over here. I'll literally just wave them over, and they will just come over, and they'll be like, hey, how are you? And they're like, do I know you? I'm like, no, but you will now. And then they get real excited, and we just kind of, we go into it. But the wave is money. I forgot about the wave. Just
yeah, and
so
Calvin's so fun to watch again, because I don't even think that he is like consciously thinking about what he's doing. You hear him talk, he's just like, this is just how I talk to people. Like, I'm just gonna tell it like it is. I'm just gonna call you out. I'm just gonna say whatever I'm feeling or thinking. They try to give me some BS smokescreen. I'm like, no, that's crap. That's not real. Like, he just like says these things to customers, because I'm like, how do you do this? He's like, this is just who I am. This is just what I say to people.
Oh yeah, Anthony brought up a good point. My favorite thing when I'm standing at the booth is, how are y'all? People love that little Southern y'all.
Just say it to everybody. Just greet everybody.
Like,
and
I just literally engage everybody.
That's half the battle, I think, is just staying engaged and actually greeting, not being on, it's so easy sometimes, like, oh, I get distracted with this thing on my phone. It's like, just staying engaged, staying in front of each person, like talking to people, just greeting them, just smiling at everybody, just making eye contact. And sometimes you're there for 5-10 minutes before you get somebody, but just like making conversation with people walking by. And that's so smart, Calvin. I always think to talk about Cutco, like, oh, are you familiar with Cutco? But I love just the talking about their baby. Curtis always talks about their shopping bags, like what they had, what they're carrying or what they're walking around with and stuff like that. So that's so smart. All right. Thank you, guys. Let's give a quick round of applause here for Calvin. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker on our panel. So same topic. We're doing a panel here, like I said, rapid fire of engaging customers, pulling people in, converting walkers to buyers, we'll call them. So next up on this, I did ask Bert, even though, as we've now seen from the comments, all of Bert's lines really just came from Seth. So, Seth already got to talk. So I want to hear another one from Bert. No, Bert is really good. He's, Bert is unlike Calvin, who I just sit and I'm like, oh, it's so fun to watch Calvin sell. Bert, I'm like, gosh dang it, he is so annoying, because all he says to everybody all day is, hey, we're cutting deals. Hey, we're cutting deals. Hey, we're cutting deals. And it's fine. It's fun to that one person who walks by and hears it once and then leaves. But when you listen to it for 12 hours, you want to stab him with a bird's beak. But you know what's amazing? He sells so much Cutco doing that. It is wild. Like, I'll be sitting there working with this person who walked up to the booth because they have Cutco, and then they end up buying 2 knives to add to their collection. Meanwhile, Bert said, hey, we're cutting deals to some cute little family that has no idea what Cutco is. They walk up and he sells them a signature set. And I'm like, damn it, Bert, geez, you're so good at this. So I'm excited to hear all of Bert's tips on engaging people and bringing them in. So Bertrude.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so it's repetitive, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think Seth will probably he probably hears it a little bit more often than most people, but it works. And I don't think I've ever said I took credit for its cutting deals. It's not my thing. I just have made it my thing. So anyway, no, in all seriousness, whoever actually came up with it, again, if it was Seth, if it was somebody back in the early 2000s doing events, whoever it was, or wherever the joke came from at events to get people's attention, I'm forever in their debts, because the amount of people that I've had buy Cutco because I've said that stupid line to just get them to stop is it's probably in the thousands by now. So Calvin, you had some great points and some great lines to kind of piggyback, because Calvin, you had a lot of really good things that are just simple. Again, like the whole idea of like your energy is, I should say, so the booth is your energy. right? So like the atmosphere, like Brian was saying earlier, like, man, it's like whenever I go to, when I went to the booth when Bert was there, is like everybody was just having a blast. And in my opinion, like to get people to stop engaging is like, what is your interactions like with just customers that are already at the booth, right? Are you having a good time? Are you laughing? Are you cracking jokes, right? Because, and at the end of the day, by the way, like you don't have to crack jokes to sell Cutco. I know that. But at the same time, like, why not have some fun with customers? In my opinion, like having fun with customers is the reason why, right? I can do 12-hour days for 12 days in a row or 11-hour days for 11 days in a row. Like that's the only reason why I get so much energy from creating energy, that it's just contagious, right? So the first thing I would ask yourself is your booth energy contagious? So the person that you're working with, like, are you setting the tone early and often? Like, let's have an absolute blast today. Let's have some fun, right? Because at the end of the day, like that's what helps sell Cutco the most, right? Like you can have a million one-liners, you can have a million ways to drop down, you can have your booth looking super, super pretty and super expensive. But at the end of the day, if you're just quiet, right, you're just sitting on your phone, you're not really interacting with people, it's really easy for that to just be another booth that people just look by. Because at the end of the day, guys, let's be honest with ourselves. We have really awesome products and they look really expensive when we set them up the way we do. But there's a lot of booths. There's a lot of different booths that are at events, right? So Calvin, doing the wave thing, one thing that I do, especially if you guys are at a super, super busy or loud event, is I don't even necessarily like say I'm cutting deals, because that's a great way to lose your voice when it's super, super loud and you're saying cutting deals, which I'm totally guilty of. People that have worked with me, I've totally done that from like across the aisle, just full blown. It's so aggressive. But you can also do the Vanna White, is what I like to call it, right? So you can just have a person, to your turn, they come walking up and you just like, you make eye contact and you're like, uh-huh, and they're like, what the hell is this dude's issue? But holy shoot, these look really shiny and pretty and our knives suck, right? So that's the same thing that Calvin's doing. Calvin's just doing this, and hi, how are you? And it's just like nobody waves, right? No other booth is like, hey, how's it going? Or look at our stuff. It's so over, and you got to do it over dramatic, right? You can't be weird about it, right? You got to be over dramatic about it. But it's like, just get them to look, right? So Calvin, when he said, and I'm going to echo this, and I think it's important for repetition within this panel, your job, right, when it is your turn, is to just get people to look at you. And the people that are interested are actually probably going to come up to you without much more effort, but it's your job to get them to look, right? I was just talking to a new rep on our team and she's like, man, I just feel like I'm really struggling. Like some people come up to the booth and then they just walk away, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, not a big deal. Just so you know, most people that say, hey, how much is this one knife? Right? And you say, it's $138. They're like, cool, thanks. And they leave. They're just probably not that interested. And that's okay. But my job, right? And like Kevin, it's a game of numbers. Most people that I say I'm cutting deals to, guys, probably 90% of them just keep walking. And I don't care, right? That's fine. But the 10% of people that are like, that's hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the sharpest guy here. They're like, oh, you got the jokes. And you're like, yep, I do. Do you have some of these yet? And they're like, no, but I probably should. And it's just because of your energy, right? So my one tip that you probably already know, but I'm going to say it out loud, is if you have a one-liner, like I'm cutting deals, which I just think is just bulletproof, no matter where you're at, is have a second one that you can deliver after the fact that's also subtle, but also makes people do the whole second, ha ha, you're actually funny. It's not just a one-off, right? And we have so many different one-liners that we can use because our product is the easiest thing to joke about, right? There's so many different puns you can make with knives, right? With pans, put a lid on it. Huh. They call me a blockhead. Huh. Right? Get a handle on it, right? It's the stupid things, right? They're all really dumb, right? That make most customers, like Marissa's doing right now, is, oh my God, right? But everybody that interacts with us after the fact that they're done usually says something along the lines, and I'm not the only person. Everybody on this call has had this interaction. They're like, you know what? Like, you're really good at the jokes. You're not too much with them. Like, but you made this really fun. And that's the goal, right? So your goal to get people to stop is to have fun, right? So say something, smile a lot, right? Smile a lot. Just be intentional about making them look at you. Now, I would also say this, what Kelvin said is super important to remember. There are going to be some people, right? It's still okay to say hi to, but there's going to be some people that you see in the crowd that are like, I want to talk to them, right? So Joseph just had a conversation about like, you can see kind of people, how they carry themselves. They got nice bags, they got nice jeans on, they got nice boots on, right? So if you're not saying cutting deals, like I just completely did a chameleon thing last year and just said, howdy y'all. I've never been Southern in my life, but that was easy for me to say. And now I say howdy to everybody. It doesn't matter if I'm Minnesota or Texas, and everybody responds to it throughout any part of the day. Howdy, right? Couple other things that I had, because again, Kelvin, you just gave a great message and stole all my thunder, so I appreciate you. Yeah, so I would say the other thing too is again, remember that the pitch is what's going to sell Cutco. It's not the cutting deals is going to sell Cutco, right? So if your job is to engage customers, the best thing that you can do to get better at engaging customers is just get better at conversation, right? So I think one of the most important things that I feel like I've gotten better at throughout this job is how good are you holding a conversation about anything, right? So I think it's really easy to be like, okay, cool, I'm cutting deals, I'm really sharp. Are you familiar with Cutco? Probably a lot of my conversations, I'll probably say more than 50% don't go directly into knives. I'm like, hey, we're cutting deals. I'm a pretty sharp guy over here. And then it's immediately after that saying, yeah, what brings you guys to the fair today? Or have you guys seen anything cool today? Right? And just say something to kind of just get their attention, to make them respond to something other than just a simple laugh. Right? So when you actually have a conversation with somebody, right, it's really easy for me now that after doing this thousands of times, it's like a person can come by and I can talk to a person about anything. It could be the color of their shirt, right? It could be their bag, right? It could be that they've got 3 kids. Oh my God, good luck with those guys today. Right? Are they keeping you? They're probably getting your steps in today, right? Ha 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 ha. Right? Just get them to look at you, right? And a lot of people, we've all experienced it. They're in a zone, right? So I think I'll finish with this. Most customers are zombies when they are walking through aisles. That's all they are. And that's okay, right? It's a busy event. They've got 2 kids on their hips. They're trying to get to where they're going. They're trying to meet family. They're trying to meet friends, whatever they're trying to do at the fair, right? It's your job to break the pattern, right? So the whole idea of just using something silly like, hey, I'm cutting deals and something stupid like that, right? It's just to be like, oh, Cutco, I got awful knives at home. What are these? Right, that's it, right? It's not complicated. Get outside of your comfort zone if you're not used to saying something, but say something to everybody, right? Like it was so funny. I was working an event at, we were working a home and garden show, and we had 2 people that were working the event at a different booth, and they were at the beginning of the at the fair, right? And it was the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. But when people got to the show through us, I'd be like, yeah, we're cutting deals. They're like, oh, we already heard that one over there. I'm like, that's like the best thing I could have ever heard, right? Because those people were stopping at our other booth first, and that's great, right? Because that means that people are stopping, and that implementation of just something simple like that works, right? So break the pattern, have fun, be the energy, right? So all that comes down to drinking more water, do some push-ups if you need to, do a Seth high kick. If you need to do a Seth high kick, you might pull a hamstring, but that's okay, right? But just have some fun and be the energy. And if you are the energy, that naturally is going to attract the customers that you want to talk to. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh my gosh, amazing. This is great. Also, I'm having so much fun just listening to just how everybody sells Cutco differently. Like so many people have so much success in so many different ways. And just like Bert was saying, like if you're not a crazy jokester, like Calvin's not cracking jokes left and right the way Seth and Bert are, right? Like, but he's just super direct and he's just super honest, but he's still having a really genuine conversation. He's just being himself. Some people a little bit more introverted. So you don't have to fake it or, be somebody that you're not, but can you keep it light? Can you keep it fun? Can you show off the great parts of your personality and just have a fun, engaging conversation with people? Whoever you are, that's what you want to show off, right? So it's like, how can I be more authentically me at the booth and let people see that, right? And like bring people to me because we're just having a great time and we're just high on life, right? That's what we're all about. Awesome, guys. Let's give a round of applause for Bert. Great money tips. And obviously I'm kidding. I love working with Bert as well. It is just funny because you hear him say the same thing all day, every day, and it freaking works. So sometimes when I'm like, oh, I need to say something different to each person. It's like, well, this person doesn't know what I said to the last person. So why would I say something else? Just say what works, say what's going to engage them. Also, hearing Bert say howdy y'all in his northern accent, I think is really funny. I think it's followed up with like, howdy y'all, you betcha.
Oh, you betcha, no doubt about it, bud.
Don't y'all just say up there? Are y'all close enough to Canada?
We joke that
Um,
North Dakota, usually after North Dakota, Seth and I will basically be Canadian after the next 9 days. So mirroring and matching is a real thing.
Yep. We come back from Texas and we're all saying y'all and howdy, and come back from North Dakota and they're saying they've got they've got just much more of that North Dakota accent going on. Okay, guys. So this has been, I hope you're enjoying this. I'm just happy and smiling listening to everybody's just having fun at the Cutco booth. Like, I can't wait to work it up there. You know, we think about I got to sell more. I got to raise my average order. I got to do this. Got to sell more business gifts. It's all serious all the time. And this conversation just makes me happy and just reminds me that we just get to go have crazy fun at the booth for 30 days. And that's just, I'm super pumped about that. So I also love Bert's reminder too of that's how I love when he's like, that's how I get through the day. I think about it as oh, we need to be upbeat for the customer's sake, but it's why not just have fun for our sake? We're at the booth for 12 hours. You don't want to be serious and just powering yourself through the day. You just be hey, I'm just here. I'm having fun. We're meeting cool people and having fun interactions and having great conversation and having fun with our booth mates. And it's just a great job. So I love it. Okay. Next, we are going to hear from another person who, I don't know if you've noticed, but he is sneaky good at getting, this is, I'd say, one of the more low-key people that I always am just watching and I'm how do you do that? How did you just get those people who are walking by to come over? And it's because, first of all, brisket shirt. I'm sure that's going to be half of his messages for us. But it's just because Brian is just a great conversationalist. And when you hear him talk, I think the thing that's fun about Brian's rapport and conversation with customers is it's not just in the beginning. It's not just oh, we'll chat for a little bit and then we'll go into Cutco stuff and it's done. He's just having a conversation with them all throughout. And he's also just selling Cutco. He's talking about where they live. He's talking about their kids. He's talking about how he lived in the same city that they live, no matter where they are, right? He lived in the same place or he has family there, whatever. But he's always asking them questions. He's constantly building rapport throughout the whole thing, start to finish. And it's really fun to watch because it's just this great conversation flowing that just happens to also have Cutco sales in the middle of it. So I think that's really cool. One of my favorite stories, and maybe Brian, you can elaborate on this, but I think it was last year at the Tulsa Home and Garden Show was when you had your brisket shirt and a whole family came up and bought multiple block sets from you, right? Can you start off with that story and then dive into the rest of your content? Because that was just that was the time when I watched that happen. I was damn, he's good at just pulling people in. So
yeah, I'm just looking to catch eyes, and I for the guests who've not worked with me, they're just I'm wondering what's going through their head with all the talk of a brisket shirt, but it's literally just a red shirt that says brisket across it, really big. And in this case, the family actually had a walking taco or something, and I literally was just brisket, and I just sort of yelled at them, and they looked at me, and I pointed at the shirt, and they started laughing, and then I just was hey, is it good? Is it how are they? I keep seeing people with them, and they just walked over, and then the next thing I noticed, this lady was just covered in Disney tattoos. I mean, a full sleeve of Disney tattoos. I have a video of it on my phone somewhere, and I just went off because I'm just a giant nerd. Well, I'm just a giant nerd. So we talked about Disney, and yeah, it was pretty wild. So that was one. And the day after that, I sold a Cutco kitchen to an old lady also who liked my brisket shirt. So I don't even know which story it was. So it was one of the two. By the way, I'm just envisioning me trying to do the Vanna White thing or a high kick. And that's terrifying, y'all. That is not, I don't have that Jack Black rhythm. I think you pulled that off. So, all right, well, guys, I'll go ahead and jump in. Of course, going last, especially following Bert, it's they're trolling me. Bert needs to talk last. It's not cool. And then Calvin took a lot of the great tips too. Me and Calvin operate in a lot of similar rhythms, even though our personalities are really different. So I'm going to try and go a different direction. I'll leave some of the stuff that they've already covered. And here's the thing that I will just sort of throw out to begin with. This is one of the hardest topics to cover on an agenda. And I'm glad you guys are responding so great to this. This is one of the single hardest things to do. The very first video I ever did years ago as a new coordinator was on attracting people to the booth. And that's really what this topic is about. It's drawing people into the booth. It was the very first topic I did back way before we were the video people. And it's one of those areas where I think all of us, because we've had so much success, we sort of assume we're great at it. And I don't want to I'm not calling anyone out, but when we think about all of our averages and our skills and our package focus, there's not any areas I think, or I hope that we allow ourselves to feel that level of complacency where we're oh no, I'm good at it. I know how to do that. I've already arrived. I always tell my managers successful people never say, I already know that. You know what I mean? Because they're either just processing what's the next level for them, or they're understanding that sometimes people are sharing it for their own benefit. But you never hear successful people say, I already know that. And so this is one of those areas where what if we all put ourselves out there individually and collectively and just said, what if I'm not as good at this as I think I am? And you just start from that premise, and that can be tough to do. But here's the reason why I think I stress this. We're all going to be at the same fairs, working largely the same booths. Yes, some are different. Yes, the traffic flow is different. Yes, some are more dedicated shopping areas, and some are maybe more like pass through. By the way, the pass through are great. More people go in them. The shopping are great. It's easier to catch attention. Both of them kill, both of them crush. Okay, but I think the ultimate competitive advantage at key events is how many people in a day you talk to. Okay. I think that is the absolute secret weapon, competitive advantage that, like, from the big stage, a lot of times we don't really get a chance to talk about. Because again, we already know how to do this. We're already good at it. But the reality is we could always be better. We could always be better. So what else can I add to what's already been said? Well, my philosophy is this. I want to talk to every single person that I possibly can. Okay. And for me, guys, hey folks, how are you? Hey folks, how are you? Howdy folks. Like howdy, it's just howdy folks. And it's a smile. Occasionally I'll do the wave. I'm not the Calvin. I can't, like Calvin, it's like a tractor beam. He draws their attention to him with his wave. For me though, it's just acknowledging them and talking to as many people as I can. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll still prospect, but in an event like this, guys, your best prospects are going to come because we're engaging with a lot of people. And sometimes the people willing to engage with you, they're the right people. And the fact we have people coming to the booth, that draws more of the right people over. So yes, I'll prospect people, but I want to engage with just about anyone that I really, really can. Bert talked about pattern interruption. And I think that's a really great way to do it. But guys, for me, I just want to have a head turn. I want to catch some eyes. Now, if they're money, I like to make them smile. Just say some dumb things like, oh my gosh, we've been waiting for you guys here all day. Okay. Oh, thank God you found us. It's just dumb stuff. Like my biggest order of the year was to a customer where literally they looked over me and I go, you found the knives. And they just started laughing. I don't even know why. I think they were just tired. It was just heat exhaustion. And I was like, you found the knives. And they're like, we didn't know we were looking. And I was like, thank God you found us. I don't know what to tell you. Can I give you the 60-second version on Cutco and why we're here? And so it's just a willingness to engage with as many people as I possibly can. Oh my gosh, hey, Mr. Jones, we heard you guys were coming, so we set all this stuff up. And guys, it's dumb, it's stupid. I get it. Maybe you feel like some of those things aren't your personality, but at the same time, like it's just a willingness to sort of engage with people from a point of levity. Because there's a huge difference between me trying to engage with as many people as I can and me like looking thirsty. Y'all follow the difference there? Because like you got to keep both those in mind. So that's why, while yes, I'm trying to catch as many eyes as I can, I'm trying to do it with a little bit of a laugh and a smile, a wink and a nod. I'm having a great experience of my day here, whether these people want to come and talk to me about kitchen knives or not. Okay. The two things I'm looking for when I catch eyes, I'm looking for recognition or interest. Those are the two things I'm looking for: recognition or interest. Okay. Recognition could be something as simple as like, I think that's what my mom had, or like, oh, Cutco's here, just anything like that. And once you get the slightest hint of recognition, usually the happy customer list is a great way to go there. You can just sort of quickly dig down like, oh, are you guys familiar with Cutco? My mom had it, or anything like that. By the way, I think happy customer lists, as we've gone pamphlet and digital focus in a lot of ways, I haven't seen as many of those out as I think I used to. Like I'm sure everyone on this call is doing that, but we got to make sure we're killing the happy customer list because it's social proof, it's fun, and it's super, super interesting. What's the thirst trap? Absolutely. I'm definitely not answering that on recording. It is, I'll tell you this, it's not me doing a Vanna White. That's what it is not, for the record. But guys, when it comes to interest, all right, I'm just looking for that gleam in their eyes. And sometimes interest isn't them seeing us and just thinking like, wow, I need some really nice kitchen knives. But it's just, they've been walking past schmaltzy just crap all day. There's just shitty stuff sold at a lot of these fairs. How many mops and like just garbage things, or like the massage guys? It's like, come here, come here, come here, come here. And like, it's just so weird and they're in your face and they want to like put pads on you. And it's just, everything is uncomfortable. So a lot of people, like, they're almost not used to seeing like a professional, high quality booth display with people that are having a good energy. I love that thought that Bert threw out about like energy in the booth attracting people, because I think that's really, really true. Guys, when you think about how it's such a small window of time that we actually have people's attention. And it's such an even smaller window of time that people are going to make that decision of, am I going to engage with this person or talk to this person? Well, first off, by me engaging with them first, I'm already lowering one barrier of entry, if y'all kind of follow me on that. But there's so much that's happening that's just like reptile brain. It's all subconscious. And I think it comes down to just that first impression they're experiencing of us. And so I guess time-wise, I know where I'm at. I guess I got another minute or two. So when we think about first impressions, y'all, I think that that's just a hugely underrated thing. How's that? How is your body language? Okay. Like, are you willing to write things off as, oh, I don't have the same personality that Calvin does, or Seth does, or Bert does? Are you using that as an excuse? Are you hiding behind that? Okay. Because guys, for me, I'm very outgoing, but I also can get very anxious at times. So even though I'm outgoing, it doesn't always mean that I'm like up for the task of trying to talk to every single person. Like both those things can be happening at once, but I'm able to put myself into a right state of mind to just get to that place. And you guys need to think for a second, what is their first impression? What is that snapshot that they have of you? Because you have so much control over that. Guys, just a relaxed smile. I just know that my first impression I want people to have is that I'm having a good day, I'm enjoying being at this show, and I like my job. Y'all with me on that? Like people can get that with just my body language, being open, being expressive, sometimes talking with your hands. A lot of this is stuff I've learned to do because it fits my personality. But at the same time, I've learned to do it because it's effective. All right. So this is one of those areas where I just want to make sure that no matter where people are personality wise, okay, that you don't use that as an excuse not to continue refining your game. If it needs to look different for you than me, great, or different from Josh, or different from Kelly, or different from Bert, or different from Chelsea, great. But what are you doing to make it better for you? Like, how are you measuring your first impression? How do you know how you're coming across to other people? And do you have kind of a philosophy about it? Now, look, I'm not saying mine is right or mine's the best, but I think when people look at me and they just have a sense that this guy likes his job, this guy likes what he's doing, he's happy to be here. I'm at Canton sweating just through my clothes. All right, but I still have a big smile on my face. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm better now that you're here. How are y'all today? Okay. And it's just, I'm going to just engage with them and I don't even care, man. I'm going to have some fun there. And that's the attitude. Guys, I'm not going to wait to have a good day. I'm not going to wait to go sell in order for me to make the decision to have a good day. These are my favorite events with my favorite people the entire year. I have an unlimited opportunity. I can make more money this week than I could in a month another time of the year. And I'm going to support my family like crazy. I could bank a year's worth of mortgage payments in the next couple of weeks if I do this shit right. I am not going to wait until I'm having a good sales day before I bring some energy and intensity to the booth. My energy intensity is going to guarantee that I have a good sales day. I think I'm out of time. I don't even know, Kelly.
Woo, man. We got a round of applause already for Brian. I don't even want to talk until we all give that man some love. Awesome. It was just great. Just fire note. I'm also like reading, everybody's like chiming in over here with like all kinds of just love and hot, updates and just like telling everybody how great everything is. And Carlton's just lighting it up, which is great. Chelsea also had a couple questions here. Chelsea's questions specifically over on the side. Brian, you can chime in on this if you want to. She said, what if we're working and actively engaging lots of people and the person who's actually up, whose turn it is a shy hermit crab? Can we high kick like Seth, do the man of white, and then pull them into the booth? And then leapfrog that person whose turn it is. So we're just kind of debating, and Josh's kind of take on this is that, we bring people in and hand them off to whose turn it is. But what would your kind of take on that, Brian, be, or your suggestion for that situation?
Yeah, so I'll go quick on that. I'm pretty Darwinian in the booth. It's a little survival of the fittest. Now, we respect turns. We must respect turns. That's an important policy to us. We don't cannibalize it. One person's success will not come at everyone else's. That's for sure. But at the same time, if someone is unwilling to do things the right way, then I think we just have to jump in there and do the thing. And I've literally, like, if I'm not up and I'm with someone that's a little quieter, I still do all the same nonsense that I do. Like, I'll still try to pull people over to the booth, and then I will literally turn and say, "Hey, Joe Rep, do you want to help them out, or would you rather, or would you want me to get a spin with them?" And I'll literally just put whoever is on the spot. But I'm doing it the right way. I'm being positive. I'm being professional. I'm giving them a shot. But that's only after we've had a conversation or two about it to make sure we're all on the same page.
Love it. And I think the main thing too is like, I think we all need to hold each other to high standards of engaging people and bringing them into the booth, right? So it's like, it's one thing if, you know, you're literally on your phone and not paying attention, like, we are taking that turn from you hands down. But if you're, you know, if you're up and you're saying hi to people and you're greeting people, then it's going to work. And if somebody's just not paying attention or they're on their phone, then it's like, hey, you either need to get up there or I'm going to start taking customers. I love working with Curtis because he is like, man, if you're working with Curtis and you are not on your game, Curtis is like, I'm going to take that customer. If you are not going to take that customer, then I will take that customer. So you do not cherry pick with when you are in a booth with Curtis, because he will leapfrog you. He will take that turn if you are not paying attention or you are not engaging that customer, and he will sell that 16-year-old girl a galley set. So you should work with every single person, because if you don't, Curtis will. So really, I think it just comes down to, yeah, us all doing better to make sure we are engaging people and that we are bringing people into the booth. So this was awesome. I hope you guys have liked this panel. I've had a lot of fun just listening to everybody's like fun tips on getting people in. And that's really just part of it, guys. Like, we're all at this point, if you're on this call, you're pretty darn good at selling Cutco, right? So the question is, how can you get more people in front of you in a day to be able to sell them Cutco? And that's really where this panel kind of was dreamed up, is like, cool, if we have people in front of us, we're going to sell to them. So how can I make sure there are more people in front of me constantly? How can I never have a break? How can I just work for 12 hours straight with customers back to back to back to back? And all 4 of us at the booth are busy nonstop for 12 hours. Like, what does that look like? That's pretty cool. That's what I'm excited about. So it's not just waiting for somebody to walk up to your booth. It's making the sales happen. It's having the energy that's so just intoxicating that people have to walk over and see what we're doing. And they just want to come talk. They're not even there for knives. They just want to come talk to us, because like they said, I think it's so interesting. Brian and Bert and Calvin all kind of alluded to, we think about our booth as like, oh, Cutco's the best product here and we're so amazing. But customers are just walking by. Like, we're just one of 500 booths that they have walked by that day. And we know we're awesome and we know our product is awesome. So in that 5 seconds that they walk past our booth, are they seeing that? Are they getting exposed to that? Are they aware of how awesome we are? Are we inviting them and engaging them to come over and hang out with us? Or are they just walking past us because we look like just another booth where people are on their phones and they're not paying attention? Bert, it looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on just the situation, like what kind of Chelsea asked. It's like, I think one of the most important things, the distinctions of being a high level rep, is it's really easy, in my opinion, to have the scarcity mindset, especially on slow days, on weekdays where it's not as busy as a weekend, to be like, oh, I got to make sure I'm talking to the right customer, right? It's such a limited way of thinking to not trust how good you are at your job. And remember, like, if you talk to a person, like I put this in the chat, but I think it's worth saying out loud. Like, if you say, hey, I'm cutting deals to a person, and they're like, oh, nice knives, and they come up and you ask them a couple of qualifying questions, which you should do regardless of if you're saying, hey, I'm cutting deals to somebody, to come up to the booth, and they're just not interested or they're not looking for a set of knives and they leave, that's fine. It's not a big deal. The worst case scenario is a person comes up to your booth, it creates energy around the booth. You're still cracking jokes usually the whole time. And usually, again, motion creates emotion. So all of a sudden people are like, oh, what's going on here? What's going on at the Cutco booth, right? So just remember, I think it's really important to be on the same page with the people you work with. Be like, hey, just so you know, like I struggle with this because I'm a person that's so like, everybody say something to everybody. And for me, I had to take a step back where I'm like, okay, not everybody's like me. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like if you're not just saying, hey, hi, how are you? Happy Tuesday to somebody, right? If they walk away and walk past, who cares? But if they come up, it's a great way to create, again, energy at the booth and motion at the booth to get more people that are there. So be in communication with the people you work with, because some people don't want that, right? Because again, at the end of the day, you don't want to talk to some random, completely unqualified person and be like, here, Curtis, take them. You don't want to be that guy, right? But it's still important to say something to everybody. And again, if it's the person's turn, pass them along, right? But if the person's not paying attention, I'm right there with you. I can do your thing. Close the order.
Hey,
So-
I know we have to move on, but I had one other thing in my notes that I'm just going to do anyway because I can. Or Kelly can mute me. Calvin talked about getting something in their hand. I know. I want to stress that again. I know that doesn't get them to the booth, but within your first couple beats of a script, if you have something in their hand, whether it's a pamphlet, whether it's a happy customer list, whether it's a knife, like that goes a long way. There's a reason why Dawood early in his flatware or his cookware approach, like is putting a heavy item in their hand. Curtis is giving them a knife to cut with immediately. At Houston Rodeo, when we couldn't have blades out, I stood there all day with a K-Bar Explorer. It was like in the sheath, but no blade. And I just held it all day in my hand just because there were so few things we had that as soon as I started talking to him, I would completely out of context, I just handed it to him and they would just hold it and it just feels heavy and substantial. And I sold I had a $9,000 day there on 3 orders just doing that kind of crap. So I think that's just a super underrated thing with just getting interest quick and keeping them at the booth. Those are my notes. Sorry.
Amazing. Nope, this is great. We just have so much good information to give. So, hey guys, let's give one more round of applause for all of our speakers on that panel. I hope you had fun with it. That was a fun topic. I was super excited for us to talk about, and I hope we continue to learn from each other on how to get more people in the booth. And if you have more fun tips on what's working for you guys, remember, hot news, updates, share it. Hey, I said this line to a customer and they walked over and broke their concentration and they came over and this is how it went down and this is what they bought. So we love to hear that stuff and what's working for you. So